Hey, Monday, get stuff done day today, and we're live to start that process to work on your inhale. So we are in a breath support expansion learning phase. I've been focusing a lot of content on breath support, especially because we have a big breath support bootcamp coming up this Thursday. So I'm going to be talking about some stuff here with you today, but more specifically for really hands-on, in-depth, live training on all of this in a small group setting where I look at you, I watch you, I can make sure that you're implementing all these things correctly. That is what the Breath Support Bootcamp is for. It's a paid training because you're going to get a lot of one-on-one with me every step of the way. So to that end, though, we're going to talk about your inhale today. And by the way, if you're interested in the bootcamp, just before I forget, because I always just like to take care of housekeeping first, let me put this in the chat so I don't forget, because I know then I'm going to get so many people being like, wait, Arden, what's the link? Okay, so here's that. Breath Support Bootcamp. There you go. Okay. Oops, there we did it. Okay. Sorry. Logistics and housekeeping are done. There. I'm putting it on the screen, and it's also in the chat so that you guys can see it. Okay. So the inhale. When most people think about breath support, they think about the inhale, and they also don't understand that the inhale is really not your breath support. It's involved in it. Oh wait, somebody is messaging me on Facebook saying that the link didn't show up. Let's see. I wonder why that is. Let me check. Just looking. Okay, here, I'm going to put it here on Facebook for you guys. Sorry, guys. Logistics. Okay, there. Now it's on Facebook too. Okay, so when we think about breath support, we often think about the inhale, what happens when we breathe. But in truth, inhale and your breath support are actually two separate things. The inhale is super important for the phrase you're about to sing. But the number one thing that you need to understand about your inhale is that you need to release your support when you inhale. So you got to think of this as like two things. Your breath support is what's going on in your lower abdomen, all of these muscles, your back muscles, your intercostals and your ribs, your transverse abdominis, rectus abdominis, obliques, all of those muscles. What we're talking about when we talk about breath support is how we engage those muscles to support yourself, not to waste air or leak air, so that you get the best possible sound, because you have the exact right volume and velocity of air flowing through your cords. And so when we talk about support, we're talking about the muscles that literally support your body to do that. Now, the inhale is what happens before we engage the breath support. So like the first most important thing when we're talking about all of this, guys, is to make sure that you understand that when we talk about the inhale, we're not talking about breath support, okay? Which means that you need to release all of these muscles of support in order to breathe. Meaning, if you were just engaging your support to sing the phrase, whatever, if I was Carmen, right? That's a little Carmen for those of you who know. I'm engaging my support when I'm singing. But the minute that I breathe for the next phrase, I have to let go of that. So if you're watching, I see we have some people watching live. Hi. Let me know if you're conscious of actually releasing these muscles of support when you breathe that have been engaged in the phrase before that. Tell me, do you actually think about that? That like when I'm in the phrase, I'm engaging. Release, let go. Okay, so the first and most important concept of breath support, like if you take nothing away from today, is a reminder that the inhale is a release. How many of you know that? Or maybe now that I'm saying it, it's like, oh, that makes sense, but I hadn't really thought about it that way. Yeah, Kathy's like, I do, but I don't think about it. But I want you to think about it, Kathy. And those of you who are watching, because if we're not present to these things, then odds are we're not intentionally using them to the utmost efficiency. And so, one of the things that you can play with in order to do this is really feel the difference between the on, meaning when you're on your support, you're in the phrase, you're flexing your support, and the off, meaning when you breathe. And you can do that on a hiss. So, feeling this support as on, you can see my muscles engage. I wore this shirt specifically today so you could see. Like you see this engage, right? And then as I breathe in, I let those go. And it would be the same thing if I was singing. You can watch me. And then I breathe. Okay. So, like, the thing that I really want you guys, sorry, I'm crossing my legs here under my bench. The thing that I really want you to be conscious and present of is, number one, am I releasing on the inhale? Because in truth, the inhale, all it ever is a release. You have to release your belly, release your ribs, release your lower transverse, release the throat, release the jaw, release the tongue, release the, everything just releases. You see what I just did? To open up and make room for the air that's coming into the body. If we don't do that, if we don't release this, now we're grabbing and the diaphragm can't lower to make room for the lungs that are filling with air. And so then we don't get as much air as we otherwise would. And we end up out of breath. We end up with an airy sound. And most of the time we end up with more tension than we want in the phrase because we feel stuck and we feel like we need to push because we don't feel like we have enough air. So as you're going through your practice today, especially if you're somebody who feels like, you know, you're singing rep where you have long phrases, especially if you're an advanced singer, especially if you're a pro singer and you're doing auditions and you're out there and you're performing and you're recording and you're doing rep that's like, you know, requires you to be really on your technique, and you notice that you're a little anxious and you get a little bit of worry coming in, like, oh my God, here comes that long phrase. Or here comes the phrase with a high note, or here where you're getting anxious about, are you going to have enough breath? Are you going to make it to the end of the phrase? If that's you, and there's a lot at stake because you are in professional auditions, you are in professional recordings, you are being paid. You can't just show up and, like, you know, crap out. That anxiety also creates the inability to release on the breath. Okay, so now that's a mind thing. That's a mind thing that affects the body. And you know me, I'm all about mind body. So if that anxiety is happening, now we're in that negative feedback loop, which makes it even harder for you to release on the breath. But that is the very reason why you are not making it to the end, because number one, you're not releasing on the inhale to begin with. So you're not getting as much air as you possibly could. So understanding first and foremost, before anything else, that the inhale is a release, okay? Playing with it on that hiss. Now, let me ask you, how many of you feel like you understand, intellectually speaking, that it's a release? Like maybe you've heard me coach that the inhale is a release before. Maybe you understand it like in your logical thinking brain, but when it comes in to the moment that counts, all of a sudden it doesn't show up that way. And you keep grabbing inhales. That's a grab, right? That's not a release. That's the opposite of release. That's a control. That's a doing. What you do when you do that is you grab and you close the space, then you get less air than you would otherwise. So you just end up reinforcing the anxiety that you don't have enough air. Okay. So if that happens, that anxiety, all of a sudden, now we have mind responding to body that's saying, oh, I can't trust this. I can't trust that if I just let go, I will get enough air. Like, how many of you, tell me in the chat, feel like you need to help your breath. Like you need to help your inhale. You need to help yourself take the air and pull the air into your body. It's okay. I used to do that. And that breath looks like this. But oh my God, you see all the tension? And did you hear how much that's like me closing up because I'm trying to grab air. And then number one, I'm in tension. And now I have started whatever that next phrase is from a place of tension. And that's not going to serve me at all, because what do we know? Tension is the enemy of the singer. So if we want freedom to use our support the most efficiently in the ensuing phrase, then number one, we got to start that phrase from a place of release. And that takes trust. It takes trust that you don't have to help pull the air into your body. It takes trust that you will have enough. It takes trust that your body knows how to breathe. You do it all day, every day, and you don't walk down the street going, right? You don't do that. So why would we do it when we sing? But these are the things that kind of get stuck in the mindset, okay? But there are tactics and there are tools to help link mind and body to do this. And this is what I'm going to be coaching on in depth in the breath support bootcamp that we're doing on Thursday. This is a paid workshop, guys. This is not one of our free workshops, because this is me hands-on with you in a small group setting. We cap this at like 8 or 10 singers, like max, because this is every step of the way that we're coaching on this support is me looking at you and making sure that you're implementing this the right way, watching you sing in the workshop. And we're going to be doing this on, again, this Thursday, which is July 25th. We're doing it at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's 3 hours intensive boot camp on breath support, including breathing, inhale, all the stuff. Because if you're listening to me talk about all this and you watch my videos and you come on live, like those of you who are on here today, I see you, I know you come on here. And at the same time, it's all very well and good, but how many of you are like, but I don't really know if I'm doing it right. Am I? I still I think I might be, but I still lose my breath, or I still feel tense, or I still don't make it in the way that I need to the end of the phrase. And God, if I could only have Arden look at me and tell me if I'm doing this right and tell me what I'm doing wrong and nip in the bud those inefficiencies. Like if you've wondered that, this is what the boot camp is for. And it's 3 hours of intensive, like, that we're going to do. We're going to do rep. We're going to do, all kinds of really specific, like step by step on inhale, on apoyo, on all these things. Like if you've come to some of my free vocal powerhouse workshops where we do an hour on breath support, right? And it's fantastic. And it's lots of good free stuff. And you understand it. But if you really want to train this in your body, then come to the boot camp. This is what it's for. The link is in the chat. It's also, if you're watching on YouTube, it's also in the description of the video. Grab your spot. We have a few left. It's like I said, we keep it really small. So I want to be able to coach you to make sure that you understand what's happening with your inhale, that you understand what's happening when you get into the phrase, and that you have all the step-by-step, the pieces together so that your apoyo works with mind and body, works with your inhale, works with how you bring your energy, so that you are the most effective singer you can be, and you're not worried anymore about tension, strain. These are breath support issues, guys. Seriously. If your resonance, pitch issues, you guys, pitch issues is breath support. 9 times out of 10, all of the things that you experience that you have issues and trouble with in your technique are breath support issues. But the problem is, it doesn't stop there. Because if you have that stuff going on, it makes you feel really insecure, which I get. Because you can't rely on what's going to come out the way you need it to. And when that's going on, now you're not putting yourself out there for the opportunities you want. You're not performing the way you want. You're not landing the gigs that you want, the things that you want to do in terms of your recordings and up leveling, being able to do this as a career, if that's what is in there for you and your dreams and your vision. None of that happens the way you want if you feel insecure about what's going to come out, because then you don't put yourself out there for it. Or if you do, you don't land it when you do. And like breath support is the foundation of that. And I know a lot of you have had training before, and I guarantee you that, because unfortunately, breath support is a really tricky thing to teach, and most singers don't do it right, and most teachers don't teach it right because they weren't taught correctly. And there's a lot of, unfortunately, bad information out there about breath support, and the way that the language that we use to talk about it, to understand the anatomy going on with it. It's just anatomy, guys, and most people don't even teach the anatomy of it. But once you understand the physics behind it, the anatomy behind it, and the mind body, to learn how to trust, like I was talking about, to get out of your way, understand the things that sabotage you from trusting that your body knows how to breathe. I mean, it's all very well and good for me to say that to you, but what happens when you get in there in the moment, right? So all of these things, they're just not taught. Unfortunately, I wish they were. So this is why we're doing the boot camp, right? So today, the idea of the inhale that I was just giving you, this is one of the first pieces of the puzzle, because if we don't have that, then nothing that I teach you after that, whether it's in the boot camp, and you should absolutely come, like seriously, guys, this is like fundamental. Nothing will matter because you're not set up from that foundation of freedom in your body. When you're going into the phrase, the inhale sets up the phrase. The quality of that inhale, the release and the freedom of that inhale allows the body to take the air, the maximum quantity of air that you need, in the most free way. And now you're going into the phrase with the maximum amount of air that you have available to you, and from a place of freedom instead of tension. So I know you guys maybe have questions about your inhale. If you're watching live, now's the time. Go ahead, put it into the chat if you have any questions about what you experience in your inhale. Or if you're watching in the replay, what questions do you have about what happens when you inhale? Some people might ask a question about a nose breath or a mouth breath. You might have a question about, what do you feel? There's the back body breathing that we talk about all the time. There's also the idea of being able to release your belly when you breath. So what questions can I answer for you? Let me make sure I can see everybody here. All right. Okay. Rigo, hello, I see you. Yeah, if you're in the intensive, because you're just starting the intensive, you don't need to come to the boot camp. Everything that we do the intensive is like the boot camp on crack. Because you're in the intensive, Rigo, you're getting everything that we do in the boot camp and then some, and then a lot. So don't even worry about the boot camp for you, because you're in our flagship training program and you're getting all this hands-on training 3 times a week anyway. But I love that you're on here, and I love that you're committed and dedicated enough to ask. But yeah, for you, you don't need the boot camp. Let me see other questions to make sure that I see you guys. Okay. So unless you have any other questions, that is where I want to leave it today. Focus on the inhale being a release. Start to understand what is going on when you inhale that might be sabotaging the rest of the phrase. If you want hands-on, real-time, live, in-depth training on your breath support, come to the Breath Support Bootcamp this Thursday. It's only $4.99, and you get all the replays, and you get to keep them forever. You get my hands-on training with you in a very small group setting, and you will have the foundation for your breath support and know what it feels like to do it right, because you will have my eyes and ears on you, making sure that you are implementing it correctly. So if you want that, the link is in the chat. It is also in the post copy. Hi, Janet, I see you. I'm not sure if I saw your full comment. Okay. Oh, I see a question. Alyssa, hard to balance support with breathing. Well, I'm not sure if you came on maybe a little bit later than when I was talking about at the beginning, but support and breathing, meaning your inhale and your support, are 2 different things. What happens on the inhale is first, and then you engage your support. If you're trying to engage your support while you breathe, yeah, It's contradictory. You can't engage your support while you breathe. You can't, I mean, you guys try it. Engage your flex and then try to inhale. It doesn't work. That's why I'm saying the inhale is a release. So really, guys, separating these two things, understanding that the inhale is one thing, and then when you go into the phrase is when you engage your support. So I get where the confusion might be, Alyssa, but it's not hard to balance when you recognize that there's like an order of operations here. You release for the inhale first, then you engage to phonate, meaning you engage the muscles of support for your apodio to lean when you phonate. So if you want more support on this, because sometimes, people don't realize, that this is, that they're not actually releasing, and they don't quite understand the difference between the on and the off, meaning the on of the flex and the off and what happens when you actually breathe. Because it's not taught. Seriously, and then that's why there's all this confusion. And I can understand why you're feeling it hard to balance, Alyssa, because my guess is that you've been engaging this support the whole time, even when you're breathing, and you can't do that. So play around today as you're singing with flexing through the phrase, engaging those muscles of support through the phrase, and then letting them go when you inhale. And then there should not be any contradictory or any confusion, because the two things are contradictory. You must engage the muscles when you sing, and you must release them when you inhale. But if you're doing that, then there is no contradiction, and it's not hard to balance. Sammy, I see your question. Let's see. Is there a way to engage your flow easier? I feel like I don't know how to do it, or if I'm doing it right. So when you say, is there a way to engage your, was that supposed to say flow? Because I see in the chat it says flu, and I think you mean flow. I think there was a typo. Is there a way to engage your flow easier? I feel like I don't know how to do it, or if I'm doing it right. So what that has to do is understanding the amount of flex, how you flex, where you flex, and it should feel easy when you're doing it right. And so if it doesn't feel easy, my guess is you're holding too much, contracting too much, or pushing too much, and it's being sabotaged. So this is something that, Sammy, come to the breath support bootcamp on Thursday. This is the best investment of your time and energy and money, because you will have me looking at you and coaching you and being like, oh yeah, I see exactly what's going wrong, and help you how to nip it in the bud and understand it in a way that you really can embody it and understand what that feels like in your own body, really quickly. Let's see. Somebody else is asking, Alyssa, breathing out can also be forced too much. Yeah, absolutely. But that's what breath support is for. So you don't push air and flood air. It's called support because it needs to support the air to be the exact right volume and velocity of air moving through your cords. And if you're pushing, then it's not the exact right volume and velocity of air. It's just a flood. So yeah, I mean, that is what we're talking about when we talk about breath support. Good questions, guys. Let me see. Okay. Well, I think that I don't see any other questions right now, but guys, if you're watching in the replay and you have a question for me, go ahead, put it in the chat, because I will come back in and I always answer. Janet, I see you trying to type something, but I'm only getting one word at a time, and I want to make sure I can answer your question. I have a Z and I have an is. So maybe I hope you can get that question in there for me so that I can answer you. Okay. So I'm going to put the link to the bootcamp. You guys get on it. Seriously, this is training that students like Rigo are investing thousands of dollars in over the course of 4 months to be able to hone this stuff and have my eyes and ears on them. And we're just distilling just the breath support piece in a 3-hour boot camp. It's $4.99. It is a no-brainer. And you get all the recordings. You get to keep everything. You get to refer back to it. You get actionable exercises, MP3 trainings, all of this in order to help you A to Z your breath support. Here's the link one more time for you, just so you got it. Okay. Don't miss it, because otherwise you're probably just practicing in your old habits with support and not realizing it. It's not your fault. It's just you don't have an expert's eyes and ears on you to tell you if you're doing it right. And that's the point of the boot camp. Okay, guys. Anybody else has questions, please put them in the chat after, and I will absolutely respond to you. It's been awesome. Grab your spot for the boot camp. We only have a few left, and I want to be able to help you. So, there, Janet's question. Okay. Do you need to think about it when you're breathing or singing? Yeah, you do. You need to plan out your breaths. So if you're looking at your repertoire, if you're looking at a song that you're singing, and don't just wing it. Know exactly where you're going to breathe. Like type out the lyrics, and I like to put a little check mark like right in between the words where I know I'm going to breathe. Plan it out, because then you know exactly how long you have, right? If it's a short phrase, you don't need as much of an inhale. If it's a longer phrase, you want to make sure that you have a nice big release so that you get a nice amount of air. You're breathing appropriate for the phrase that you're taking or that you're about to sing. So yeah, you definitely want to think about it. The other thing is, when it comes to the breath support techniques and the inhale techniques and everything we're going to teach in the boot camp and all the tips and everything that I give you guys, eventually it becomes muscle memory, right? So when I'm performing, when I'm singing, I generally don't have to think too much about my technique of my breath support and my inhale, because it has become high level default muscle memory at this point. However, for most of you guys, when you're learning these things from scratch, or when you're up leveling these things to get rid of bad habits and things like that, yeah, you have to be very intentional about how you're thinking about these things while you sing, so that you put in the right metaphorical quarter that gets you the right metaphorical gumball, right? The only way you train your body to do something is by conditioning that over and over and over again. So giving yourself the same intention. Oh, right, release my belly. You'll have to think about that for a while, especially in your technique training, especially in your exercises. But then it does become default, and then you don't have to think about it. And that's the goal. That's my goal for training all of the singers that I train. Let's see. Lakshman is asking, what's the powerful voice exercise? Well, that's a very open-ended question, Lakshman. Depends on what you're working on. There's many, 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 depending, and again, the exercise that you do, the technique exercises that you do, don't necessarily matter. It's how you do them. I could give you a million technique exercises that are powerful if you are doing them in the right way to condition the right techniques in your body. So I'm not sure that's the answer that you were hoping for, but that's my answer where that's concerned. All right, everybody, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. Start to observe your inhale. Come back into the chat here. Let me know what you're observing. Come to the boot camp on Thursday. Janet, Kathy, I want to see you in there. I want to see you in there. Alyssa, guys, seriously, don't just be a fly on the wall. Invest in the change you want to see and get the best expert help to do it. And if you want me to be that expert, I would absolutely love to, because I know that I'm really good at getting singers from A to Z, and I would love for that to be you. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon, and hopefully I will see you Thursday in the boot camp. Bye.